I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and I saw today that Toni Morrison was quoted from an NPR interview saying some really interesting things about race. And before I get into that, I want to let you know that I'm on the line with Noma Langa Mushali Moses from Healthy Black Woman. How you doing today, Noma?
I'm doing great, boys. How are you?
I'm fine. And the question I just asked you when I said, "How are you doing today?" it was really kind of a fake question because I already know how you're doing today because I was just talking to you a few minutes ago. But we decided we wanted to talk about Toni Morrison here. And Toni Morrison made some comments about race. Actually, she was speaking to the Telegraph. And in the first interview that they cite here on Naturally Moi is she says, "People keep saying we need to have a conversation about race. This is the conversation." She said, "This is the conversation. I want to see a cop shoot a white unarmed teenager in the back." And then she said, "And I want to see a white man convicted for raping a black woman. That then when you ask me, is it over? I will say yes." So those are pretty heavy remarks. What'd you think?
They are. Well, these are really good points because she's saying a cop shooting a white unarmed teen. Whereas now what we're seeing is the cops are shooting black unarmed teens, and you're not really hearing stories about little white boys getting shot. And if you did hear such a story, the cop would be convicted, um, as opposed to getting off like they are very frequently right now. So I think what she's trying to suggest is that we would have come to a point where the same thing that could happen to a black boy can happen to a white boy. In other words, the cops are not necessarily assuming that a young black boy is dangerous, that he may be armed, that he's a criminal, and that his life is worthless. So they're making the same assumption about everybody else, and the same thing goes with when she says a white man convicted of raping a black woman, meaning that again a black woman's life or her trauma is put at the same level that a white woman's is, and that a white man isn't getting away with doing something to her, like again they are right now.
Hmm. I can't disagree with what Tony's saying. I don't think we could say though that if a white man gets tried and convicted for raping a black woman, that racism's over, or if they shoot a white teen in the back, that 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 racism has ended, or that police oppression has ended. I think it's really more of an expansion of police terror, just in general. I think that one of the things I've observed in terms of how uh, whites in the power structure may treat black people is that they've also treated a lot of white people the same way. Not to say that the plight of the poor white person is the same as that of a black person. I don't believe that. I believe black people, we have our own unique style of abuse that's handed to us. But if you look throughout history, American history and European history, you'll see a lot of examples of whites really doing horrible things to other white people. Even just and that's what people don't understand is that this violence that came out of Europe, it goes back a couple thousand years at least. There was a dark era where in medieval times they did so, I mean, pretty horrible. I mean, the way they would torture people in the torture chambers. I mean, they were torturing other white people. I mean, there weren't a whole lot of black people around for them to do this to, and
And
it's
enslaving other white people.
yes, it's almost like they took this brutality that they had been thrusting on each other and just used that to go out into the world and do this to lots of people in places where they didn't know this kind of violence. They weren't living that way in Africa or in Asia or South America. So they were like, "Oh, well, these people are easy targets because they don't even have their weapons out. They're not even trying to kill us first, so we'll kill them." And so I don't think that racism will end because a white kid gets shot. I think eventually they'll start shooting more white kids. If that's what they got to do to make it seem like it's fair, then that's fine. I think the ultimate goal has to be dealing with just this police terror, living in a police state, etc. I don't want to see any white kids get killed for black kids to stop being killed. I won't feel better if more people are dying. I want to see more people living, and that's kind of how I see it. I think Tony would agree. I don't think that she's saying something that's opposite of what I'm saying. But and I definitely agree with her that she is absolutely correct that there is a double standard of justice. You're not as often. I mean, when she mentioned the idea of a white man being prosecuted for raping a black woman, I thought about that and I said, I can't think of too many examples of that. Is it because it's not is it because it's not shown in media, or is it because it's not being properly prosecuted? We do know that for hundreds of years that white men could get away with raping black women. That's undeniable during slavery and Jim Crow. And and I do know that there was that case of the wealthy European banker in New York that who lived in New York. Do you remember that? Where he
Hmm.
allegedly raped his black maid.
Housekeeper.
Yeah, his
Yes.
housekeeper. Now, how did that go? Did he get actually convicted for that, or did?
I don't remember how the case ended, but it was in the media a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm gonna look that up to just see what happened with that. But I can't. I mean, other than that, I can't think of too many examples. Can you?
No, and I don't think it's because the media is not reporting it. I think that it's just not happening. I think
Hmm.
that it's just not. White men are not being prosecuted when and if they rape black women. I just don't think so. And the thing is, if you listen to a lot of women talking, I think that there are women who, even if they got raped, they wouldn't even bother reporting it because they already know how it's going to end. Which is what's starting to happen with the young black men that are getting shot. It's getting to a point where you think, even if you report it and it goes to trial, what's the point if the person's going to get off?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I want to say that the guy's name who was accused of raping his housekeeper, his last name was Strauss Kahn, and I guess is his first name Dominique? Yeah, Dominique Strauss Kahn, and he was accused of raping his maid, I don't want to mispronounce her name, but it's in Naf Nafisatu Diallo, and the
Mm.
charges were dismissed at the request of the prosecution, which pointed out serious doubts in Diallo's credibility and inconclusive physical evidence. Um, and he
Which
does.
translates to he got off.
Right, right, absolutely. And I'm just sitting here reading and looking at this, and so I mean that's just one example, but I think it is kind of interesting because you do ask yourself what would have happened if he were a wealthy black man and she were a white maid, or if it were just two people, neither one of them were wealthy, one's the perpetrator's black, that if the alleged victim was white. I've seen a lot of people go to spend a lot of time in jail just on an accusation alone, not without any evidence, at all. And I think that's what we had. That's pretty scary. And it typically happens to black men. So I guess the best we can say is that Tony's probably right that a lot of white men are getting away with doing things to black people. And go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off.
It's okay. One thing that she did also say that stood out to me is that there's a lot of money in racism, which is actually very true. And she said that America was built off of racism, and then she goes on to say, there's money in that. And even now, we know that putting a lot of black men in jail benefits somebody because these jails are outsourced. So there's money in that. So why stop it? I mean, I'm not being serious saying why
No,
stop it,
I
but
see what you're saying. You're right.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I mean, slavery was about money, right? I
right.
mean that there are few better ways to make money than to have absolutely free labor. The prison industrial complex we know is about money. We know that the NCAA is about money. A lot of these institutions are things where people know that they're wrong. But one of the many flaws of capitalism is, and I'm not an enemy of capitalism, but I'm not a complete fan, is that capitalism does breed various forms of slavery because
Yeah.
ultimately you're worshiping the dollar bill. You're worshiping the dollar bill in a very greedy, gluttonous way. Corporations that are making $10 billion a year feel like they need to make $11 billion a year. They want to leave nothing on the table, and so more, things like ethics and what's right, that just doesn't matter. There are a lot of people even criticizing the food that Americans are being fed, and they're now starting to really dig in and into the obesity epidemic over the last 20 years, and they found that corporations, that food and beverage corporations, have deliberately blocked legislation that would help Americans, be healthier. When they even little things like, oh well, don't tell people to eat less sugar, even though the scientists are all saying, well, the sugar is what's killing people. We're dying from eating too much unhealthy food, but corporations own our politicians, so they come in and they convince them to change the wording, so people die as a result of those decisions. So, whether you're talking about
They don't
food.
die.
Sorry. Well,
They don't
people.
die. They just sell them drugs.
There you go. Well, they sell people drugs, but I mean, but at the end, I mean, people are dying of these diseases: diabetes,
Right.
heart disease, strokes. I mean, these things are real.
Right.
So whether you're talking about the food angle or you're talking about incarceration, it almost seems that the common denominator here is this capitalist greed that causes people to do things that they know these things are wrong, but they do it because the machine is telling them to make as much money as possible. And
Right.
even if you're and who's going to stop it? I mean, even if you're a prison warden and you realize it's wrong, and you say, we can't keep putting people in prison for money. Well, guess what? They're going to fire you, and they're going to put a new warden in your place who'll go along with the program. And that might be
Right.
one of the pitfalls of American capitalism. It's absolutely I guess, created the path to our own destruction. So
Right.
anyway, that's that. I want to say thanks to Toni Morrison though for making these remarks. I love it when celebrities speak up about these issues because a lot of black celebrities are scared, and a lot of black celebrities either worship the money or they've been intimidated into silence. And so whenever one steps up, I think it's very important that we support that person and say, good job, you go girl, thank you so much, to let that person know we have your back. So because the pressure does come down on these people when they do speak out.
Right.
So I'm done. Did you have anything else to say?
Oh no, I'm saying that when we first started talking about this article, we felt that what she was saying was a little too strong, but when we talked it out and thought about it, she's actually on point.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad she said it. So, all right. Well, thank you very much, Noma. It was great talking to you again
Thank,
as usual. Absolutely.
thank,
And everybody, this is Nomalanga Mushali Moses from healthyblackwoman.com. Also, you can check our stuff out at theblackhomeschool.com. And I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. And also, don't forget, we have a new film out called Resurrecting Black Wall Street about the Black Wall Street Massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. I hope you'll check out the trailer for the film, which you can see at resurrectingblackwallstreet.com. That's resurrectingblackwallstreet.com. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.